Welcome in, everyone. UGA Football Live with JC Shelton and Arthur Lynch. I'm happy to see you, man. It's been a minute. Can't wait to start stacking these shows up. All right, CFP's right around the corner. Georgia just beats Florida. It's good to see you. First off, Artie, we got a lot to talk about, man.
Yeah, likewise. It's good to be back. Sorry, I've been MIA for a bit, but good to be back. A lot of football's been played, with a lot more to be played. So I'm excited to catch up and talk some dogs, and then just kind of the larger college football landscape.
Yes, sir. And that's what we're going to do, man. So let's start it there. So our beloved Florida Gators go down at the hands of the Dogs, and man, what a game! And Artie, you were getting into this before we started recording here, but you said you were talking about Kirby, calling his team the Cardiac Kids, and
Mm-hmm.
we thought this might be a trend, let's say 4 weeks into the season, and here we are 10 weeks in, and it's the same. So I guess we can assume that Georgia's not going to be blowing people out, and it's going to be close, and you're going to have very, very minute plays and actions within the game that are going to be the key factors for a win or a loss. And Georgia's, other than Alabama, they've gotten on top with all good ones. They've been the benefit of making the big plays when they've had to, but also getting some help here and there, man, and getting some luck thrown their way. But the gritty is the term that you used before, and I want to let you spill on that.
Yeah, no, I think the best way to put it is, and I saw the cardiac kids thing after the game, and it makes sense to call them that because it seems that they do a really good job of playing themselves into the situation. And I know you and I were talking offline about the teenage fight that ESPN is having or Disney's having with YouTube TV. So I didn't put two and two together, and now all the SEC games are on ESPN. So I didn't get to watch. When I'm not in front of a TV, I use the Georgia Dogs app and I listen to the radio call, which I think is a better call anyway. So I still find myself listening to that even when I have TV. I just mute the TV and listen to that. But Kevin Butler was talking about this at the end of, and kind of when they had the call-in show after the game and the post game. He's like, it seems like Georgia plays himself into these positions, but then has the grit, the mental toughness, and the kind of the fortitude, and also just the playmaking ability at the end of games to just make a play or finish a drive or get a stop. And they win these close and tough games, right? I think anyone that's played or been to that game, Georgia, Florida, at any point it could be a home game for you or an away game. And it's a very unique place to play because of that. And so what I'm getting at is whether it be the Auburn game or the Tennessee game or this game, right? When their backs against the wall, they continue to answer. And you think about how, a couple of bounces here, a couple of plays there. It's this team could easily be, 5-3, but they're not. They're 7-1, and they have found ways to win. They're really raw talent is still developing.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're not they don't have a Roquan Smith or a Todd Gurley or a Nick Chubb or, this, but they have talented people who have a skill set that can grow into those types of people. I just think you're just seeing development in real time, right? Mm-hmm. But unlike a year ago, right, we don't have a questions at wide receiver, right? We're not having these shoot ourselves in the foot moment where it's we should be up by 40, but we're dropping passes or we're fumbling the football. And I know we were a little bit more careless with the football this time around.
Yeah.
But I think throughout the season, we haven't been turning the ball over, and we're disciplined. It's just some things don't break our way, right? And I think we don't score the 30 to 45 points. Man, I know Ole Miss was an exception, but at the end of the day, all that matters is getting the W. And I would take that attribute on a football team of when your back is against the wall and things aren't going your way in the final 8 minutes, final 6 minutes, the final 3 minutes, your spine stiffens up and you brace for the hits or you deliver the hits or whatever it is. and you ultimately come out on top. I think that is understanding that adversity, feeling that adversity, and overcoming it in real time, week after week, pays dividends, because not every team faces that kind of adversity. And if it's game 8, 9, 10, or it's the playoffs and your first time really facing adversity, sometimes it's too late, right?
Yeah.
And so I think Gunner's getting a lot better. He's getting more confident, and the team really, really believes in him. And I think the offense as a whole is getting a lot better. I think the defense makes important stops when they have to, but I would like to see more consistency on defense for sure.
Yeah. It reminds me of when I think about this team and I think about how battle tested they are and they keep coming out with wins. It makes me think of how dominant, Nick Saban from a recruiting perspective built Alabama. And then when college football changed in the NIL era and the transfer portal era to where you were losing backups that were going to hold big roles on your team the next season, you're losing them. So you're having to replace those guys with maybe just as talented but less experienced players.
Totally.
So I think that's led to a lot of the parity we're seeing. But even when Nick Saban and that team kind of had to face that as a program, they were still winning games. They didn't maybe blow out or have these, as many national championship seasons, sure, but they kept winning big games. And
Totally.
it was hard to put them away. And that's where Georgia is now. They're not the 4 and 5 star stack with experience rotating 3 deep at places. They still have those guys here and there, and a quality lineup, obviously. But the inexperience has played a part into where you can't dominate like you used to. But you said it there earlier, like these guys they know how to win. They're able, and the confidence that comes with that, the confidence that comes with coming back against Ole Miss, Tennessee, Auburn, a close one against Florida, is what you really, really want as a team, man. And as a fan watching that, it makes you hopeful throughout the game, despite what might be happening. So that's kind of it's the heart wrenching Georgia Bulldogs. Just the emotions are so up and down consistently, and it's almost comical, man, when you think of a first half woes to the second half, or the first through 3 quarters per se. Let's say yesterday to the fourth quarter, and a couple of drives that really made the difference.
I want to hit on that.
Yeah.
No, sorry, I want to hit on that one point. You kind of what you're describing is like the psychology of the football team, right? Mm-hmm. And anyone that's been on like on a team, like there almost becomes like a sixth sense, that you have amongst your teammates, right? And it can be good and it can be bad. But I've been on teams before, just in sport writ large, but even in like when we talked about it offline before, our team was like dismantled by industries like that, injuries. That first half of the 2013 season, there was actually like a video that Lauren Smith did. He goes, and they call it cardiac dogs, because it's like we would find a way to win and late in the game or come back. And I had a very similar high school basketball team like that. Like we would get down by like 17 and none of us would flinch. Like we wouldn't even know cognitively that we were down by like X amount of points. We would just be like, oh yeah, this is standard operating procedure. We're going to get a couple stops. We're going to cut the lead in half, and then we're going to gain momentum, and then we're going to win. And that psychology of a team is a real thing. And there's also another side to that coin where you could have like bad psychology, where you have like this, you're winning games, but you're winning them by like the hair of your teeth, and it's just a matter of time before things blow up, right? And I think for this particular team, they probably get down or are tied to a really bad, dismantled Florida team at half, and they're probably in locker room. Their ass might be getting shoot out, might not, but like they are interconnected. We're like, we're not sweating this, because we're going to go back out there and we got 2 quarters of football. And we know that at the end of the game, we're going to be in a position to go win the game. We're going to win it. And what happens, right? We have a huge run, right, to kind of seal the game. And then we have a great stop on defense. And then Gunnar Stockton is able to, take a knee at the 1 and learn from his mistakes at
That
Auburn,
was
right?
awesome. Did you see
You know
that
what I mean?
Oscar Delt knee? Oscar
Yeah,
Delt was blocking for him and kneed with Gunner on
yeah.
the.
He was like
I was like, "What are
protected.
you doing?" I love that kid, man. He's so energetic, man, and he does stuff like that to disrespect in the most like integrity driven way he could. It's just,
It,
I'm gonna kneel with him.
it's so like, but there's a psychology to that team, and
Mm,
it's the psychology, it's the mental makeup you want to have because yeah, some of these teams maybe we should blow out, but like then you play a team like Ole Miss, who's like, say what you want about Ole Miss, that's a good football team,
this is.
really good football team, and Lane Kiffin is a great coach, and it's not easy to like when everyone complains about the offense. Like if you were going shot for shot with Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss,
Mm-hmm.
you're playing at a very high level on the offensive side of the football, right? And so there's that kind of phrase of, do what you need to do to win the football game. And I think the good thing that we see about Georgia football is they can look like a lot of different teams week in, week out, but they got the stones and they got the genetic makeup as a football team to where when push comes to shove at the end of the game, they're going to put themselves in a position to win that game. And yeah, they lost to Alabama earlier in the season. And to be quite frank, Alabama just played better, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they tackled better. But that was week 3. Like, I think we're going to be in a much different position as a football team later on in the season. We have, and the good thing for us is we have a lot of tests ahead of us. We could talk about that later, but I really think that psychology of the football team is so important, and they have a very, very good mental makeup that's going to suit them well as the season progresses.
I totally agree, man. I totally agree. And having that mental fortitude was key yesterday because, well, just the overarching thing, and you hinted at it earlier, Artie, and we talked about this before, so I won't belabor the point. But for those new listening, Artie's made some great points about playing in Jacksonville in this rivalry, and it can feel like a home game or an away game depending on the momentum because it's split. And so any negative thing, whether it be luck or a bad play, it can affect you mentally and the team
Oh,
from an
for
energy
sure.
standpoint, right? And you think about all those it was just one of the weirdest games of the season when you had, and I'm not a hate the officials guy, but there was some clearly bad calls for both sides, right? And it kind of stacked up against Georgia at one point because you had a targeting which I had never seen called before. I thought that was a clear no targeting, and then boom, you lose your best safety. We already have your other starting safety out with injury. You had the false start with Gunnar Stockton clapping too loud, and that's like
That,
those are all the subjective calls.
that was crazy.
When we get to subjective anything in an emotional game, it's bad for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
It's bad for the entire sport. You have to get something black and white and put in that rule book, not based on what the officials are seeing or hearing, or maybe they're piped up with energy and the fans are roaring. One side's pissed, the other side's really excited. That all plays a part. We're only human here. It all plays a part in what your decision making for these officials. And it got to a point where it was just subjective call after subjective call, and George was on the tail end of it. And you're still able to respond and play through those things and make the plays when you had to. Like, for example, this is I'll get off my soapbox in a second. But for example, this is where it kind of proves my point. You had Florida drive, and Georgia needed to stop. If Florida scores another touchdown there and late in the game, your chances of winning that ball game go through the floor. And Lagway, heck of an athletic play, him just basically like Supermaning about 2 inches off the ground. But the ball was already starting to come out when he hit the ground with the ball.
Mm-hmm.
He already lost his grip on it. So when it starts to come out, already, isn't that a fumble? Is that a fumble? Is it I think when it starts to come out, I get it, right? So we saw that. Man, I don't know anybody can make a case that wasn't, but they called not a fumble, right? And Georgia was like, man, that was your chance, right? And then of course boom, 4th and 1. All the odds are stacked against you. Florida at that point had just been physically dominating up front for the second half, running the ball when they want, getting push off the ball, and you make the stop. And it was well short, too. I'll add to that. They actually measured it. I'm describing this to you too, Arctic. I don't know if you saw it because I know you didn't get to watch the game. You had to listen because of YouTube TV and ESPN and that crap. But they measured, it was a whole yard off. And they actually brought the measuring sticks out. If I'm a measuring stick guy at that point, I'm like, what am I doing? Why are you calling me out to walk 50 feet to do this? I mean, it was clear as day. Like, what are we doing here? So it was so weird, man. It's so many moments like that in the game, and Georgia's able to answer on those and not let them affect them. And that makes sense when you think of all the comebacks they've had this season and what they've kind of been through on that, right? So it was that's what made it such a discombobulating game, man. But I think one of the cool things we saw from the future for Georgia in that backfield too is Chauncey Bowens, man. I want to see him get 80% of the touches. Or I mean, he's a little different, man. I think it's a vision thing between him and Frazier. Because so many times I think Frazier is a one cut. He wants to knock somebody's socks off, right? And he's mostly throwing his body. And you lose some, yards after contact doing that. And Chauncey, man, he just sees the field a little bit better. And that's just a feeling I get watching it. I don't have something to back that up. But I love Chauncey and his rise. And that's a young kid too. So
he's got a little bounce to him, doesn't he? It's like and
reminds me of Sony.
That's his body type is like Sony because he's not light.
No,
he's got some, he's got some, legs to him.
Yeah,
but he's got a great burst, and it's. I would say this, I have felt more confident in our receivers this year, in our tight ends. And it's been our running game, which has not been bad because I do think our offensive line, we've talked about the pass pro has not been great, but they are a great run blocking offensive line unit. But I just think that we haven't had like great consistency from the running backs, or at least someone who's been like, I'm going to take the next step. And to me, Chauncey Bowens, his name was getting called a lot and he was delivering. And there's nothing stopping him from having a breakout year moving forward and just be like, all right, I'm going to go get a stick. I'm going to rush for 1,000.
Right. And you're going to need him. You're going to need him to just
totally
Georgia Tech, who's probably going to put a bunch of points on the board against you. You're going to have to control the game somehow, and that's run the stinking ball. Keep it from Haynes King, keep long sustained drives. So you said it right there. He has the opportunity. He's kind of in the middle of this breakout season. It can be locked in with a good performance, I think, the final stretch, including Georgia Tech. You need him.
And Bobo knows that too, right? Like it's they're probably understand that he's talented. From a talent perspective, he's probably the top guy. But they're probably like, hey, you got to know what to do. And that comes with reps. But knowing Coach Bobo and what he values like intelligence, meaning like, what's your football IQ? You know where to go, what to do, how to do it in certain situations. What do you do differently? And, there's going to be times we're going to need to feed that dude 10, 12, 15 times a game. And I think he can definitely handle it. And I think we're a better team when he's on the field.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, man. And so the running offense this year, too, you think about the games when you had to go and get in a shootout where like Tennessee and Ole Miss. And I think the large reason for that is you were able to run the ball effectively throughout the game and not just in the fourth quarter. So I think yesterday Georgia got into a situation offensively where they were one-dimensional because Florida has some dudes. Kirby Smart talked about it after the game.
Dude.
I don't think we're going to see another front like that. If you do, you're seeing Ohio State in the playoffs. You're seeing maybe Texas can play similarly, but just having dudes up front. So Georgia they weren't getting any space up there, and they were running for under 3 yards a carry in the first half. And so you become one-dimensional, back in the stick, 2nd and 12, 3rd and 9, a lot, 3rd and 10, whatever it was, you become one-dimensional. So this offense, I mean, if you're going to keep up with the Georgia Techs offensively like that, you got to run the ball throughout the game. That's the challenge for those guys, right? That's the challenge for the front. And they're much better at run than they were pass early in the season. I think that's become a little bit better. And the stats show you. I think it's more as much Gunnar Stockton hasn't been getting hit in the backfield as much. But you do have those freshman moments already, which is like you have the more inexperienced guys who've been thrust in with injuries. And they whip every now and then, but at least consistently they're not doing that as much. And receiver play, dude, with Colby Young out, Noah Thomas has to step up. That when he dropped one there and it went to it was Gunner's second interception of the season. So I was a little worried about how he would be mentally in responding to that, because he's been given some chances. He led A&M in receiving last year. He knows he can do it. Georgia needs playmakers like him. He's been given some chances this year, and most of them haven't gone his way, right? So, and then that happens. So I'm thinking, man, what headspace is he in right now? What is James Coley talking to him about? And then, sure enough, he catches a touchdown a few drives later. So that was good. Like, okay, he's able to get past that. Because anytime I see drops like this already, all I can think about is last year. Like, oh, no, here we go. We've been bitten again. We're going to start dropping everything, So no Thomas. I was glad to see him get a touchdown. I want to say, hey, Zach Branch, before we move on to Mississippi State here. Zach Branch, oh, man, what a signing. This is what we wanted. When we saw Georgia pick him up, you were like, man, can he still play like that All-American freshman that he was? And he's even better now. And that's 9 – I think he had, 9 catches yesterday, 100-something yards, 2 touchdowns? No, it was 1. 1 touchdown. Great game from him. He's doing really well. It's almost every week. And then C.J. Allen, give him some props too, man. He was all over the field. And you're playing with a defensive front that is having to start a true freshman in there, get him a lot of snaps because Jordan Hall, went out earlier in that game with injury. So you don't have that great defensive front in front of you kind of taking up those blockers, but C.J. Allen was still able to do a lot of work and make a lot of big tackles. I think he had like 13 combined. So I want to give him some flowers. And the last thing I want to touch on here already is stop and smell the roses of victory against
seriously
the Florida Gators, man. People forget, especially young fans already, like the young fans now coming up. Like, we have never beaten Florida 5 straight in a row since 78 to 83.
Oh, no,
Kirby Smart's not going to live forever, guys. Let's enjoy this.
No, man, it's anyone will tell you who's playing that game. You get out there with a win, you cherish it, because it doesn't take much for a Florida team. Like, new coach comes in. If it's the right coach, that place could be humming in 2 years. You know what I mean? A team like you mentioned it, like the studs that they have in the front seven. Like, Florida's one of those teams. They can go 2-8 and they'll still have like a first rounder on there. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, they're the top dude. They're number 10 in the country in blue chip ratio.
Yeah,
they're the 10th most talented team in the country.
It's just the nature of the school, right? Miami's the same way. Miami, even in their worst years, we're still putting dudes in the league because it's just like it's no one, particularly if you're not from Florida or know a little bit about ball, like, people just underestimate how much talent is in that state.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane. And so cherish the fact that we got there with a win, and obviously Kirby's done a great job against Florida and he'll continue to do so. But we're 7-1.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going into Mississippi State, which is a better team than their record indicates. But it is very, 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 very tough to win in the SEC. And, when you watch the games week in and week out, Vanderbilt, they found out that this week, right? People were sleeping on Texas, and Texas is like, wait a second, we're actually pretty damn good. Arch Manning's like, I was the number 1 quarterback for a reason. Like, and they come up and they show out, right? Oklahoma, Tennessee, they had a barn burner, right? Oklahoma's really freaking good team. So is Tennessee. So I think it's just one of those things, man. You got to appreciate the wins as they come, and then hope the next week goes the same way.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is Trap Game Central, baby. It is noon in Starkville with the Cowbells, with a team that is better than their record. Trap game, baby. After Florida, before Texas. And here's why. And then Georgia fans, you probably haven't watched Mississippi State. They're on track for their best finish since they won 9 games in 22. They lost 10 games last season. Their 4 losses this year: Tennessee, A&M, Florida, and Texas.
And they should have beat Texas. I know shoulda, woulda, coulda, but that was a good game. That showed a lot by Texas to come back and win that game. But
yeah, and if you remember that game, it was close before Texas kind of pounced on them late.
Totally.
Right? The scoreboard just completely did not tell the story on that one. They were all one-score games besides that one, but they were still close leading to the end of the third. They put up 31 points on UGA in Athens last year. It's a different team, different players. Anthony Evans, the former Georgia receiver, he's one of those different players for Mississippi State, and he just had the best game in his career last week against Arkansas. Beat Arkansas by 3, 100-plus yards, 2 touchdowns for them. He's going to be fed the ball a lot. It's going to be interesting to watch emotionally from him. Yeah, dudes. I mean, you can't sleep on these guys. And Georgia's struggled with worse teams in the past. So you got to be on your P's and Q's. I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult with the 11 a.m. For them.
It's a brutal start.
Yeah. So, Art, if you want to jump in there and maybe tell us how you would approach and what you learned as a player and kind of having those games later in the season when you're feeling really good and you got to go play a pretty dang talented team that people are sleeping on.
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to this, right? Like you try to get hyped up for every game, and it is, but sometimes there's like a fake, not a fake, but like you like
Fugazi.
Fugazi, right? It's like one of those things where you basically have to tell yourself, like, hey, like I know this game is not Georgia, Florida. I know it's not Alabama at night in Sanford Stadium. I know it's not University of Texas coming to visit Athens for the first time in God knows how many years, maybe ever. I don't know what that status is, but it's one of those things. Like, but everyone knows it's a trip-up game, and very rarely do people like show up like they know it's a trip-up game and take care of business, right?
Yeah,
it's just like the nature of the beast. I remember like the Missouri game a couple of years ago with the Georgia.
Dude, no kidding. I just thought of that right before you. That's what I was thinking.
And now, granted, we didn't know that like that was because I think that was Eli. They're going to his first year. So like,
was it maybe his second? I think he's been there longer than I'm thinking.
But either way, like we didn't realize that was the DNA of what was about to be built to a pretty good program.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know because it's still a relatively new coach here at Mississippi State, right? I believe it's his second year. Maybe it's his first.
Yeah, Jeff Lebby. It's his second season. Mm-hmm.
Right. So we could see a breakout year from there next year where they're 7-1, 8 games in. And I think what they need to do is be very honest about where they are and just be like, and I think this is what Kirby Smart does a great job of. And Bobo is like, and I'm sure Glenn Schumann as well, where it's like they're going to make cut-ups of like all of the places where they could have capitalized, the mistakes they made, the mental errors, the missed opportunities. And it'd be like, hey, like you might be 7-1, you might be top 5 in the country, right? You might have Texas coming in home, and all, everyone's talking about you guys, but like you have to take care of business against Mississippi State, or everything that you want next week's game to be will matter that much less, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's the classic thing, focus on the task at hand. And I think it's very easy to try to psych yourself up and be like, I know this is a lull, like don't let it be, but you need to have your entire team locked in and fired up and ready to go. And then it's no longer a trap game, but easier said than done. And it's actually less on the coaches and more on the senior leaders within the team, right? A game like this needs to be driven by the players and less about the coaches.
Okay. I like it. I think I'm just a little concerned with, because there's a big chance this gets into a shootout.
Oh, yeah.
Because you got a young secondary already, and now you're probably going to miss DeMelo Jones. He's got something with his elbow. Chris Cole's got something going on with his knee. Kyron Jones is already out. And then Jordan Hall up front. He's dealing with a knee. Probably not going to play this week. So your defense is more decimated than it even was, and it was already decimated. And if you don't make the plays and get off the field, because that's one of the things. Georgia is top 5 in the country, Artie, in explosive plays defensively. Over 20 yards, they're top 5 in the country. For sustained drives, they're towards the bottom of the FBS. That tells us we can't get off the field on third. We're not allowing huge explosive plays at a high clip, but as far as sustained drives, we're really struggling off the field. So you get into a shootout in Mississippi State, that's where to be nervous. That's when you get nervous, and you're having to play so many more plays and dip into your starters even more. And injury prone is starting to become a trend for us on defense, especially. So how do we combat that? And this is what I want to see. I'll frame it that way. This is what I want to see from Georgia. Defensively, get off the field on third downs. Let's say 50%. All right, I'll be pleased with that. And then run the ball effectively throughout the game. Take some pressure off that defense. Keep them off the field. And run the rock. Set up the play action. Get into a comfortable rhythm there, right? Because that's what you weren't last Saturday. Averaging under 3 yards a carry in the first half. So get me to 4. And that tells me that you're cooking. I don't have any questions of Gunnar Stockton. I know he's gonna be the same guy that shows up, man. He might make a couple mistakes, but they're not gonna really shoot you in the foot. So I really don't have any big expectations for him other than him being the same quarterback we've seen him become. So that's where I'm at, man. So it's dangerous. I would not take these guys lightly, and I hope they do what you're suggesting that they do mentally and from a team culture aspect going into this game.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be team led because the coaches SEC coaches are paranoid enough to where it's like they're never going to take anyone seriously. That's just how they prepare. That's how their mental makeup is. But it comes down to the players, and a well-run a player-led team is not going to be catch slipping, particularly a team like this that understands how difficult it is to win. And the genetic makeup, we talked about it, what the psychology of the football team is. Like, typically a gritty team that overcomes adversity week in and week out does not take anything for granted.
Right, exactly. And that's a good point, man. You have the moments to look back on and say, we're able to win. We just win. So take care of your business. That has to be the front and center for us.
100%.
All right, man. So, I mean, I like Georgia here. Obviously, I don't think I've picked against Georgia, but I like Georgia. I have a fear that it's going to be a shootout, so I'll just go with it. We'll say I think Arkansas put 35 on them. Let's say Georgia 38, Mississippi State 24.
Dude, I actually think we're going to boat race them. Yeah, nice. I think it's like 38-7 because people.
Okay, man, that secondary is going to play good. I like it.
I think 37, like 38-7, 38-14, something like that, because I do think Len Schumann's a good football coach. He's catching a lot of heat, but it's always like we're holding the team to 13 points and we're only scoring 20, or we're scoring 45, but we need 45 to win.
Yeah.
And at some point, both sides of the football are going to align. And I think no better time to do it than this week, because I think Texas is a good football team.
Me too.
I think Texas is a good football team because they had a very young, overhyped quarterback. Not overhyped because he's not as good as the people say he might be one day, but because it was his first time ever being the guy early in the season, and he's kind of battling some injuries. I think Arch Manning is a good player. I think he showed some stuff in the Oklahoma game. He probably rushed back to play for this game, Vandy, which is a big game, believe it or not. Can't believe I'm saying it out loud, but it was. And they won, right?
Yeah.
And so we can't take them lightly, and they're playing for their season because they have 2 losses, right? So I think what Georgia needs to do is this needs to be almost like a statement game. Like, hey, like we've been either really good on defense or really good on offense, or like we've been bad on both, but still found a way to win. And now it's like, let's put this thing together, come back home, to most likely a college game day, 7 p.m. start, 3:30 start, whatever it is. And let's prepare for a war, because I think that's what it's going to be with Texas, if that makes sense. And
No, you're right.
Texas doesn't like us, man. Like the past few
No.
times we beat them, we've embarrassed them. We embarrassed them on their home field, and then we took their will again in the SEC championship game.
Yeah.
And they're due. They want to beat us.
Exactly, and it's going to be the game for their season. I mean, because
Totally.
they have to get. I mean, everybody's talking about Texas and A&M, right? I get it, but Texas still got to go to Athens, and their season's on the line with 2 losses. You said it there.
100%.
They can't look forward to that. Texas, A&M can. A&M can. Texas can.
A&M, dude. By the way, A&M's good.
They are. Hey, man. And when they beat Notre Dame, I was like, okay, that's hard to do at Notre Dame.
I watched that LSU game last week,
and
that quarterback took off.
Marcel
I was like,
quick.
Whoa. That was like one of those things like a Vic Lamar Jackson, where he just saw like a crease, and in his mind, he's like, he goes, I need that crease. I'm going to take this thing 50. And he did. When you see stuff like that, that's scary, because you're like, oh, that guy has some serious vision.
Right. And that's a heck of a defense too.
Totally.
And I think, and we'll get into in our Week 10 review here, and I don't mention it here, but so we talked about Texas beating Vandy. We talked about, Auburn lost to Kentucky. Oh, Hugh Freeze is out. Carson Beck, Miami go down to SMU. Beck throws a late interception. 2 on the night. Tech goes down and takes, NC State puts like 600 yards of offense on them somehow. And Tennessee loses again at home, and this time to Oklahoma. What I didn't mention here was Ohio State, Penn State, Ohio State, Rails, Penn State, James Franklin-less Penn State. And it's so crazy when you think of a team like A&M, who's been battle-tested, who beat a good team on the road at Notre Dame. Haven't played in Alabama or Georgia yet, but they've done their business, and they boat raced a really talented LSU team. And Ohio State, we have no idea if they're really good or not. And that's my only qualm. The SEC fans have SEC and Big Ten fans. That's like half my Twitter going at each other. And I just don't like my conference enough to make that a whole big thing. What I do say though is the Big Ten and Ohio State specifically, their biggest 2 games were Texas and Penn State to start the season. They were both top 5 teams. It's going to be great. Penn State's Penn State that we know now. And Texas, that was Arch Manning's first game as the guy, right? He had 2 starts before that, but they weren't against any teams like Ohio State. So you called them at the right time. So unfortunately, we're going to get through a season. Then Ohio State will play Indiana. Maybe we'll get to know there. But Indiana, again, how battle tested are they? It's just hard to tell. But at least in the SEC, okay, there's a lot of talent everywhere because nobody recruits like the SEC. There's a lot of money in there, of course, and of course there is Ohio State too to get NIL guys. But at least I have a better feeling, and personally, this is it for me. I have a better feeling that I think A&M is a really good team and could win a national title. Ohio State, I want to say that, and I think they do dominate at times where I'm like, yeah, that could be it. But it's all about who you play for me. I mean, that's where you really get tested. It's hard, Artie.
Yeah, I mean, I do think Indiana I think they're a different team than last year. I think they added depth. I think that quarterback's legit.
I'm a fan of
Mendoza. Like the guy they had last year was okay. He was more like a plug and play guy, I think, and like effective, but Mendoza's like a quarterback,
I think he reads defenses he's a smart guy, obviously.
Yeah, really smart guy. I'm kind of with you on Ohio State. The only thing that just makes me like double check here is because the fact that it's just like, man, they have so much talent. Those receivers are unbelievable. They lined up it was like 3 tight ends and a fullback, and the fullback was like at number 83, so he was another tight end. And they just like lined up with Penn State. It was like, yeah, we're just gonna bully you and just run the football. Yeah. Now, again, when we talk about the psychology of a team, I don't know what the psychology of their team is. I know that they take care of business, which means they're disciplined. They execute well. They obviously maximize their talent. The quarterback does his job. All those things are great, but like, what do they do when their back's against the wall? What do they do when it's 14-0 because a team jumped them real quick? My gut tells me that they'll be fine, and they'll be able to respond. But those are big question marks, particularly when in a playoff type setting
Mhm.
because
Exactly.
you gotta like there's no cupcakes at that point, and you could say what you want about A&M being new on the ball, whatever, but like A&M, man, they've played some teams now, and that team, that's the fastest team I've seen this year. Like they have some team speed that's like whoa, you know what I mean? And
Good point.
we'll see where it goes. The SEC is gonna have a great finish here because there's a lot of really good teams that have we've kind of beat each other up a little bit.
Right.
But like I think this Ole Miss and Alabama game's huge. This one coming up rather. So we'll see where it goes. But I think Ohio State has all the talent to be the top team in the country. But I'll be very interested to see what happens when they get knocked in the teeth, and do they get back up and they keep fighting, or they kind of just cower? Because
yes, that's
Michigan is slowly getting is a decent team too, and they've had trouble with Michigan. But sorry, I interrupted you.
No, you're good. You're good. That's a good point, man. I'm agreeing with you. That's my thing for Ohio State, and I think talent-wise, I think they have the talent to win the national championship. I think they have the coaching staff that obviously has done it before, right? Some players still on that team from last year, they've done it before. But not having your back up against the wall, which they did last season with Oregon, they found out a lot. That team was different after they lost to Oregon, right? And then Michigan even made it, all things considered, the perfect situation for them losing to Michigan. Right. So when they got to the playoff, they were battle tested enough and they were confident in themselves. And hey, we didn't do it when we needed to last time, but I know how to. Right. Because they've studied those losses and why and what they need to do differently. They don't have it right now. Maybe by the end of the season they will. I don't know enough about them. That's why I'm like, if I had to rank just JC's rankings, it'd probably be A&M number one, just based on who they've played and what they've done and their record at that standpoint. And I'll probably throw Indiana and Ohio State behind them. Just because I just don't know. They haven't been tested.
A&M went into Death Valley. They got Kelly fired.
Yeah, and that's a really good talented LSU team. Money everywhere.
Yeah, money everywhere. And I don't care how good or bad that LSU team is. Man, you go to Death Valley in a night game, and you just do what you please. And I think the game was actually closer than what the score indicates. If you watch the game, it was like a competitive first half, and some things could have went LSU's way, but ultimately A&M, I think, was just proved to be too good. And they're they're composed. Like that's a disciplined football team. Like they're not.
Yeah. Elko is that guy.
Oh, dude,
like discipline. Sure. Yeah, right.
Yep. I had a buddy. He's now the defensive coordinator at Rutgers. He played football at Brown, and he coached linebackers. He's a GA under Elko, and then worked his way up, and now and it was a position coach for him at Duke, and was heading down at A&M, but got pulled up to go be a coordinator at Rutgers. And he would always say, Elko is just like, he's such a football mind, but like players love him. He's like, he's kind of a short, kind of
fat dude,
heavy set dude, but like players love him, man. Like, and then when they walk, it's funny, like the image when they walk out to the 12th man, because he's just like, he's a funny looking dude, but like, you can tell his players love him though, and he's like locked in. So I think Texas Tech, or excuse me, Texas A&M is the real deal. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how things shake up, because it's either going to be us, Bama, or Ole Miss, and most likely either us, and then the winners of that game, the Alabama and Ole Miss, who's going to play that A&M team at this rate, and that'll be a fun one to watch in Atlanta, because I don't think A&M's losing. Maybe Texas will clip them, but we'll see. Texas has got a road as well.
Yep. Yeah. So on that, man, end it this way. Better job. Florida, Auburn, LSU, Arkansas, and we'll go in a Big Ten. We'll go Penn State. And ACC, we'll go Virginia Tech. All right, got some guys on the board. Not a lot of guys on the board to take these jobs, which is the crazy thing, because the coaching staff. There's a lot. with the status of college football right now, with all the outside factors and the big money, and coaches are staying put.
Oh, dude,
That's why I
as they
think
should.
if I had to put some fun coupons on this, Lane Kiffin's not going anywhere.
No, he'll go. The only way he's going anywhere is if
It's Alabama.
Alabama or the NFL.
Yeah, good point.
He's not. He's already got it humming at Ole Miss, and he's probably got who's ever writing the checks they're getting written, because he does very well in the transfer portal.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not a transfer portal guy going to Ole Miss because the tradition of Ole Miss. You're going there because you're getting paid, which is totally fine. Like, the teams that do that the best are going to do that the best and have an edge. I think, and they had this conversation on Big Noon Kickoff, because, again, couldn't watch my ESPN College Game Day. And Urban Meyer had a really interesting point. He said Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, because of like the Rust Belt exodus and the population decline in these like Rust Belt cities where like that used to produce a lot of like top tier talent in Pennsylvania and Ohio, a lot of those people moved south or away from those places. And so like the talent pool is not what it was 20 years ago. And he was like, when I went to Ohio State, I had to start going to get players from Texas, from Florida, from Georgia, because there just wasn't that like homegrown talent pool in the Pennsylvania and Ohio areas and regions, Midwest region, because they're still there. They're just not as many. So you can't be like too deep across the board and have all your players from Ohio and Pennsylvania.
Yep.
So that being said, I would normally say, without a doubt, the best job out of the Penn State, Auburn, LSU, Florida. What's the other one? Virginia Tech. Is there another
Arkansas.
one? At Arkansas. I would say that LSU would be the best job, but what happened there last week with the governor and firing Woodward and like,
jeez, man, he was getting his facts wrong too during his rant. He was talking about the agent. They don't share an agent,
dude. Like,
I don't know what he was. Dude, that was odd.
I don't really get it, because I was like, he was saying there's someone, the political party of the other, and I'm just like, the dude's an athletic director. I was like, he's not like campaigning for a candidacy.
Yeah, what is going on? I would agree with you though. Like LSU would be my pick,
but like that is a dumpster fire.
That's why I'm a little hesitant. It's like, yeah, LSU, yeah, it's the best job, but wait, what just happened? Maybe it's not.
Like if I'm James Franklin, right? And people forget James Franklin won big games at Vanderbilt. Okay. Like
Georgia.
That is, I don't know what happened at Penn State, but I'll tell you one thing. Penn State was a damn near death penalty because of a horrific scandal by a guy named Jerry Sandusky. I mean, it's happened a long time ago, but you go back, you watch that. That was, I mean, very top to bottom, just not a good situation, both for the community, the university, but definitely for the football program. And obviously the victims of this sick person. But at the end of the day, like there was 1 year with Bill O'Brien. Bill O'Brien went like 8-5, and then he got the Texans job. And so there was a lot of uncertainty, and Franklin got that job. That dude won 103 games at Penn State. That is a lot of football games.
Program record last year. Program record for wins.
So I'm not saying he's a home run hire, but if James Franklin will do one thing, he will win, right? Like, it's not a matter of if he's going to win. It's like, to what degree will he win? Mm-hmm. If I'm a coach right now, I think Florida is the best opportunity. If you watch that game yesterday between Georgia, one thing you could say is they got a quarterback who's pretty damn good, and they have a lot of talent on the defensive side of the football. Yeah. And Billy Gonzalez went toe for toe for 3.5 quarters against Kirby Smart, not because he's as good of a coach, but because that's how much talent a place like Florida just naturally has. And I think at this point, Florida has had enough of like running through coaches and misalignment. Like that school is like, we need to win and win now. Let's get the donors lined up. let's get everything up to par, and the governor's not butting in and butting heads, I would pick Florida. Under any other circumstance, I would choose LSU, but I think there's too many wild cards. Once politics starts getting involved, dude, it's too messy.
Yeah. And because of that, with LSU, I feel a little bit warmer with Florida because they showed that even with Napier trying to get things going, they were patient with him. And that's what you kind of want in today's age, which has become the absolute non-norm with patience, if anything. With all the money involved now, I think that's a big part of it.
Totally.
Right? So I was even leaning a little bit Penn State because you think expectations-wise, well, you have a massive fan base, good atmosphere. The talent thing would be a negative, right, for having to go and track down talent elsewhere, especially in the South. But for expectations-wise, I mean, Franklin proved it could be done, but again, they were just a dumpster fire for a while. So I think if you want to go to a place where you have kind of those atmospheres thing that kind of similar to an SEC, but not, with hopefully some patience, they're going to let you be there for a year to try to do your thing, right? I like that. I mean, they got the money to do it.
Oh, money's not an issue, but you don't see. I think the expectations are higher there because
Well, I don't know, man. Like, right? Because I mean, I know last year was great, and then they set the program records and all that good stuff.
But like, so basically, what I'm saying is, your floor there is you got to win 10 games because that's what he was doing year in, year out. He was basically winning 10 games a year, and
yeah, I think it can be. I mean, so think with me there. Who you're losing to? Ohio State, Michigan, maybe Oregon. You're not going to play all of them in one season. So you beat up on all the other Big Ten schools that don't have the funding, that don't have the atmosphere, the backing, the feeling.
Well, we know for a fact Indiana has the funding because they just
do. You throw Indiana in
there. they just I don't know if it's Mark Cuban or what, but they pay. Kurt Cignetti is now the third highest paid coach in college football. There's only 2 people higher, and there's 4 national championships between the 2 guys that are ahead of them.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. So add Indiana into that too, but you're not going to play them all in one year, So maybe you're losing 3, maybe 2 games. Yeah,
dude, I'm with you now, Coach. I'm just saying this, like the floor is lower at Florida starting out because they just haven't been good or haven't won games, I should say. And LSU, the expectation is national championship. You got 3 years to do it. If you don't do it, you're on the hot seat, no doubt.
Right.
But the LSU can be done because it's not a lack of money or talent, but there's a sticky thing. The thing that I worry about Penn State is like when they fired Philip Fulmer because he started winning 9 games, 8 games, 10 games, but he wasn't going to the national championship and winning it. They fired him, and they went into a decade plus of mediocrity and just shit shows, dude. From Butch Jones to the Chick-fil-A cash in the Chick-fil-A McDonald's bag, to freaking Vince Dooley's son, the yellow pants.
Derek Dooley, man. Is he running for governor?
Yeah, exactly. Well, he can't. Nobody's hiring for a football coach. So the next best thing is to, write out his dad's name, go into politics. And I actually like Derek Dooley. I'm just saying that, like, it's you got to be careful what you wish for now. You were in the Rose Bowl 2 years ago, or 1 year away from, or 1 degree of separation from the Rose Bowl and a playoff appearance and a playoff win to a bad year. But you hire the wrong guy, you could be in a.
Exactly, man. And that's the issue because people are going to hire the wrong guys here. There's not enough.
Oh, 100%. Half of these coaches will be recycled out.
Right. And as a fan of these coaches, a fan of these schools we're talking about, that's what a crappy feeling to have. So you're blessed, Georgia fans. You are absolutely blessed here. And if you're a Falcons fan too, we're about to go through the same thing with Raheem Morris because he's probably gone. He's probably already told he's gone. Whenever the question is when. So I do feel like I'm in that situation anyway, even though it's not with the Georgia Bulldogs, with the Atlanta Falcons. But yeah, so it's crazy time with this coaching carousel, and the shift in how college football is today's era is just making it even crazier. Not having enough coaches really to fill these spots of major schools that want to win and want to fund you, and you just don't know who to go after because you don't want to go through the mediocrity stage again. All right, Artie. I think that was a great show. We can pick a few games here quickly. I'll go. Let's see. We got number 8 BYU. It's a pretty light slate this week, so I wish we went with 3. Number 8 BYU at number 9 Texas Tech. This is one of those situations with the Big 12. I have no idea what to think about them because you get teams you think they're going to be going to the conference championship game and they get blown out, i.e. Arizona State. But BYU at Texas Tech here. Texas Tech getting 10.5 points at home. I think I watched BYU give up like 8,000 yards to Iowa State the other day, so I'm going to go with Texas Tech here to win the game and cover 10.5. I don't know. It feels like this one will be a close one. BYU's got an offense that's rolling pretty well too, so maybe more of a shootout, but I think Texas Tech wins by at least a score. Number 3 A&M at number 19 Missouri. You got A&M getting 6.5 points here. Missouri is in that spot to where they can ruin this season for A&M. All right, maybe ruin the entire season, but at least ruin the SEC championship race for them. Put them into a worse spot. Talented team, as we know. Obviously, the quarterback injuries have hurt Missouri a lot this year. Now, interesting thing for A&M, they're on a high right now. You got to go at Missouri. Georgia's dealt with that, having to go at Missouri and not playing too well. It can be a little spooky. Do you think A&M covers this 6.5, man? I think they should win. Is it a close one? Is it more of a barn burner? A&M's, it's been a while since they've been in one of those. Maybe this is, I think I'm talking myself into Missouri here. Already.
I gotta say, I have underestimated Eli Drinkwitz enough. Like every time I'm like, oh, Missouri is like they're ranked too high in the preseason this year. They're not that good, blah blah. And then the end of the season comes and they're 9-3 or 10-2, and they played a gauntlet of a schedule, and you're just like, all right, I should probably give him the benefit of the doubt at this point.
Yep.
So because it's home, I bet you it's close. I bet you they cover. I don't know if they win, so we'll call that a push. But I think A&M is very, very good. I think I've said that enough on this podcast to where you guys probably believe me that I believe they're good. But I don't know if there's just like if they're a wagon that can just like steamroll the SEC, right?
Yeah.
So I imagine they'll probably squeeze out of this thing with a win, but it'll be close.
Got it. And the LSU at Bama. Bama's number 4 now. 10.5 points here. We just talked about LSU.
Wait,
Brian Kelly.
I thought they were playing Ole Miss.
LSU's at Bama, right?
Okay.
Did I put that in wrong? Hold on. I can double check myself real quick.
No, you're right. You're right.
Okay.
You're good.
Right. So Brian Kelly less LSU, very talented. They built a really good roster, just couldn't win with it under Brian. Is it one of those situations, Artie, when you have a head coachless team play to the level of their talent and play together? You had to spark some team atmosphere after your head coach leaves. All the assistants want to hoorah around and get you guys ready to go, and you're good enough to play with Bama. Putting it all together, though, that's the hard part. And 10.5 points seems like a lot in this rivalry.
I would say this. I agree with you. Alabama has not done a good job of like blowing teams out. They're kind of like Georgia in that regard. They're more consistent, I would say, across the board, offense, defense, than Georgia has been. Georgia and Alabama are very similar because, like, if you watch a couple of Alabama games outside the Georgia one, like, they're a resilient bunch, but they're also like, you could have lost this game at any point. So I think it'll be close. The thing that would worry me if I'm Alabama is I'm pretty sure whoever is the interim head coach will seemingly be much more well-liked than his predecessor, because it just seems like everyone hated this guy, Brian Kelly. I'll wear that one on the face. I thought he was going to be successful there. I was wrong. So I think Alabama wins because it is a home game. I don't think they win by more than 10. If this was at LSU, I would be getting bricks if I was an Alabama fan.
Yeah.
I still don't feel good about it because, like you said, LSU is talented. They got a quarterback. They have a good defense, and they're always going to have weapons. So Alabama cannot be looking ahead for that revenge game against Oklahoma. And they better come to play.
Yep, come correct. That's what Bama has to do against LSU here. And I'm going with LSU to go. I think it's just too many points. They can beat Alabama just from a team perspective, talent perspective.
Oh, dude, 100%.
Will they? Probably not, but they can. They can. All right, Artie, we'll wrap it up there, man. Let's pick the Georgia game and we'll call it. So Mississippi State, 7.5-point dogs at home. Noon kick for us, 11 a.m. for those guys. And yeah, interesting one, man. I don't know. I mean, it's one of those situations where this is a trap, baby. It is a trap for Georgia, and especially being the team that they have been this year, it makes this even more big in my mind, I think, because I just don't see domination for 4 quarters. Well, we already picked the game earlier, didn't we, Artie? Yeah,
you did. I said, what are we doing? I think I was like, I got my boys. We're catching the perfect wave this week.
You got it.
Defense, special teams.
38. You just let me keep rambling. You could have stopped me from rambling.
I was like, he's gonna figure out eventually because then I'm about to lean into a joke. Like, hey man, like, is there an echo in here? I thought we already talked about this.
Yeah. You said blowout. You said 38-7, didn't you?
No, I think 38-7. I think we're gonna get in. We're gonna out. We're gonna. It's a statement game leading into Texas.
All right, I like it. I remember now. Long day, long.
Turn your brain on, Coach.
I know. And then I said, as a reminder, I think I went 38-24.
Yep.
I like this Mississippi State offense and just team in general. I don't think their defense is going to be able to hold up. So more of a shootout. But Georgia wins either way. I think moves on to the Texas game. Hopefully riding on a high and executing well, getting some guys back from injury. But one there, man. Thank you for your time, Art. It's always fun talking ball with you, man. I feel like I learned something every time.
Hey, go Dogs. See you next week.
See you guys.